Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's webinar. This is Matt, President of Galaxy Marketing Solutions. And this webinar is going to be really great. It's going to cover the subjects of what is a blog, and what does this have to do with you, and why is it important? And it turns out these things are pretty important. So just in talking to different doctors and so forth, it's come up as a little bit of confusion, or what is this thing, or how does it work? So when I get into explaining it, I'm really going to take it from the ground up. So blog is short for web, and so the B comes from log. So, but of course in this case the web is the internet. A log in this case is another definition, which is more of a journal or like an update, like casually expressed thoughts about different subjects. So examples of this are like a captain's log in a sailing ship, or if you ever enjoyed watching Star Trek, you saw Captain Kirk sit down and he goes, Captain's log, stardate, blah, blah, blah. And he would just leave some notes and some thoughts and reports about what was happening. And that's really the spirit of a blog. It's kind of like Captain Kirk sitting down in his captain's chair and just updating people on what's going on, or maybe talking about certain topics of interest or certain things that keep coming up as questions, and he just sits down and addresses those. Here's an official definition from this website, searchwinddevelopment.techtarget.com. And a blog, short for web log, is a personal online journal that is frequently updated and intended for general public consumption. Blogs generally represent the personality of the author or reflect the purpose of the website that hosts the blog. And this is actually something that's really cool about a blog, is you don't have to and you should not get all literary or be like, okay, now I have to be Mr. or Mrs. Author, or I have to speak in, perfectly created sentences and so forth. The actual, it's your voice, right? And I'm going to go over that more. So let's take a look. This is a sample blog page. This happens to be from the Galaxy website. And you can see, you can scroll through, and then you've got these different blog entries. So there's the blog on 6 ways to increase interaction with your public. There's the blog on just how powerful is YouTube, etc. Here's a couple more. Choosing photography for your new patient postcards. Should I have a targeted mailing list or send to everyone in a zip code, etc. And so you just start to compile these things as you create them, and they just form more and more content on your website, and then they can be sent out and should and need to be sent out across the internet on various channels. Here's an actual sample blog post. This is one that I myself wrote, and I literally just got it from a story that I had heard. I'm going to read you a little bit actually. This is getting your website visible on the internet, and this is literally just me talking, like if we were sitting down at a coffee, having coffee, and I just was going to share something that occurred in my life. So I said, I heard a great analogy a while ago that totally defined internet marketing for me. Here it is. Say you're Leonardo da Vinci and you paint the Mona Lisa in your garage. The only person who has ever seen it is your wife, and perhaps the neighbor when he came by to borrow something. Wow, that's an awesome painting. Did you paint that? Oh, yes. Yes, I did. Thanks. I like to paint. Well, good job, man. It looks awesome. And I'll bring your lawnmower back on Sunday. The end. Any marketing piece requires a lot of exposure. Even the finest postcard, brochure, newsletter, or website must be seen by people repetitively to ensure your message really breaks through and those people start to contact you. So this is relevant to blogs because what they are is they're a way to attract attention to your website and to drive people to it. And, an analogy might be like, it's like throwing bait out to fish. Your website is like a fishing boat, and you're throwing bait out, and those are your blog posts that are going out across your social media and other locations, and they're all leading back to your headquarters, which is your website. So a blog post can actually be fairly short if you want. Here's another one, and this was just designed to answer the question, do you stop marketing? Because we've had that question before, like, once we've got things going and people are coming in, so do we just kind of stop, so we don't get overwhelmed or whatever? And so that's actually a real question, and the answer is that no, you don't. So to cut to the bottom, first and foremost, do not stop marketing. it will put you into a roller coaster of too many patients and then no patients. If you have too many patients to handle, figure out how to handle them. This is a good problem to have. You may have to cope for a while as you figure out what to do, but expansion is a good thing. So this was just a question we've had come up a couple times, and we've actually had a couple clients that they literally had too many people coming in, and they were a bit overwhelmed, and this was our advice to them, is instead of stopping that flow of people coming in, actually handle the organization side of it so that you can deal with it and you hold that expansion and you reach a new plateau. So you may be asking yourself, so okay, I got it, I'm supposed to blog, so what am I actually supposed to write? You want to write what's called evergreen content. And obviously this is not the stories about trees. This is actually, evergreen content is continually relevant and stays fresh for readers, like an evergreen tree, so-called because it always keeps its leaves on no matter the season. Evergreen content is similar. It travels all across the internet because its themes are so basic, and it's sort of unchanging subjects that people across the world in different generations are always going to be looking for the answers to these basic questions. So this evergreen content travels all across the internet. It goes on, goes without end, educating people and drawing attention to you all day and all night. And I just want to take a moment to ponder that, right? So this is, this map is a good illustration. This is like internet lines and hookups across the world. And if you write a great piece of content that kind of stands the test of time and is a classic, covers a classic subject or a classic question that will continue to come up for ages to come, it can literally serve you and drive public in until the end of time. So that's what we want to go for. So you may be asking, how do I keep creating evergreen content? Well, the best way to do this is to make a list of all of the questions you normally spend time answering. So that list, just compile that thing. There's probably certain key questions that you probably already have almost like exactly what you're going to say when this question comes up, because it comes up probably hundreds or thousands of times, and you're like, oh, well, blah, 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 and you know the routine on that completely. So you want to name out these questions. And you also want to make a list of the things that are important for people to understand, which they may not ask about, but they do need to know. So there are going to be things that, like, your patients or your clients really do need to know about, but they may not even be up to the point of realizing that they need to know about it, but you as the authority know, and so you just head it off at the pass and you make a list of those things, and that's a whole other source. So each one of these points is a blog post, and you can wind up with quite a long list. And then bang, you don't want a blog to be long, really. You want it to be a few paragraphs that handles a question, and boom, there you've got some great content. But it does more than that. I'm going to get into what more it does. So do I need to be a writer to write blog posts? No. You do not have to be a writer per se. Your blog is your voice. So you just write the way you speak in real life. All right, you may be asking, but what if it's just not real for me to blog regularly? I've definitely had that question before. Like, I can't sit down and just crank these things out. I'm busy with this and that. You can hire someone to blog for you, but the purpose of blogging is to establish your authority in your field. You're the man or you're the woman. You're the go-to. You know the subject inside and out. And blogging just asserts that and reinforces that and reasserts it and reinforces that. And after a while, indeed, people get it that you're the authority. They'll listen to you. You tell them to do something, they'll do it. You tell them to buy something, they'll do it. So you must help your writer by providing key data on what points you want to make to the world. You've got to participate in the process. Even if you feel you don't have time to write yourself, or you're just not inclined to write and don't like to, or whatever, and you do bring in somebody to help you, it's really needed that you participate in the subject so that those blog posts really still are your voice, and they're covering the things that should be covered, that you want to cover as an expert in your field. Now we're going to get into the impact that this blogging actually has for your search engine ranking and how it affects your Google ranking and your website and all of that, the more techie side of it. So every new blog post is fresh content for your website. That's very important because you may or may not know this, but Google continually combs through the internet and evaluates everything on it. It's like a big storeroom or stock house or warehouse, and you go through and you do an inventory or you survey everything that's there. Well, Google's storehouse is the entire internet. So they go through and they actually comb through and evaluate everything on it routinely. And what they find results in your search engine ranking. So they'll go through and actually evaluate the pages of your website. They'll evaluate the links. They evaluate the content. They evaluate the photos, etc., etc. Each new blog is indexed by Google Spiders. And by index, I mean it's a snapshot is taken of it and it's evaluated. So each new blog is indexed by Google Spiders. These are computer programs that literally crawl through the internet to constantly update Google on what's there. New blog posts show the spiders that your website is active and that they should be checking it more frequently, meaning the spiders should be checking it more frequently because there's a lot happening with the site. And actually you want that. Like the more attention you get from Google spiders, the better, because each time they comb through your site and index it, that can affect your search engine rankings. So if you send them the signal of like, yeah, I've got an active site, I blog on this thing consistently, and there's other action on the site, the spiders will visit more often, and you'll get an updated, you'll just get an updated picture more often of your website, and you'll be rewarded by moving up in the search engine rankings. Or if you already have a good site, it'll help to hold you there. Blog posts are also perfect to put out on your social media lines and will help you to get discovered and to attract new patients. So that's the other great thing about them is they're relatively short, so you can get them out on your social media, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, etc. And it's a nice piece of informative content, which is really, that's really the way marketing rolls these days, is establishing yourself as the authority and putting out data that people can really use. And it's useful, and you literally give it away. I mean, that's why we do these webinars. We're literally spilling the beans on everything we know and not holding anything back. Because, A, we want you to know about it, because the more educated you are, the easier it is to work with you, to be totally frank. Like, the more you know, the more we can get done because we're more on the same page. So here's an interesting chart. This comes from HubSpot. And this is not an actual profile of a client or something like that, but it's a graphic that gives you an idea of how blogging works for you and continues to work for you the more you do it and the more blogs you get circulating online. So this is just an illustration. So that little gray part right on the top of those orange columns, that's the context generated from this month's posts. And then you can see there's kind of an exponential rise as time rolls on and your blog posts circulate all across the internet 24/7, all over the place. They continue to work for you, but not only that, it's like an exponential growth. And it's like a snowball or an avalanche, and they continue to work for you. That's why, if you follow, major writers or bloggers, you may or may not be aware of this, but there is this whole field and this whole profession known as a blogger, and people actually make an entire living off of just writing blogs. I follow a good photography blog, and that's all this guy does, and it attracts so much attention. He actually lives off of this thing. So that's how these guys roll, is they just keep putting it out, man, and it's incessant. And I really admire some of the top guys who do this because they manage to come up with interesting content day after day, week after week, and it's kind of amazing to behold. But you can see why they're investing in this activity, because it really gets on a roll, and they plant so many seeds. They're like Johnny Appleseed. They just plant their seeds of knowledge all across the net, and those seeds just continue to bloom and work for them and drive traffic back on them and drive clients and income back in on them. So that's why they launched into it head first. Okie doke. So now all of this increases your footprint on the internet. And that's what we want. We want more visibility. You know, when someone is looking for someone in your profession in your town online, we want there to be so much evidence of you that Google recognizes that immediately, puts you right up at the top. I want to let you know that we've actually we have a blogging service. This is to improve your online visibility and public relations, to attract new patients or new clients. And we will actually do a review. We're going to design your Google business page. If you already have one up, we can review it and make any tweaks or adjustments to the design. We will optimize your Google presence, and we'll create and post weekly blogs. And we'll actually do a little more technical things too, because a final point, which is probably I'm going to do as a subject of its own entire webinar, is that you want to express your ideas in a blog, but then there's certain technical things you can do to optimize your blog post, which is to say to make sure the right keywords are sprinkled into it. If you include photographs as part of your blog, which I highly recommend, or even videos as part of your blog, there's things you do technically to with the titling of those to make sure that the keywords are in there so that Google indexes and finds all those things and it drives traffic to you. Okay, so that service is $129 monthly. For the actual cumulative effect of what blogging does is totally a great deal. So if you're not blogging or don't feel like you have time to do it consistently or whatever, I totally suggest taking advantage of this. We'd be happy to work with you. And if there's anything else we can do for you, just let us know. You know our number, 727-531-7171. And we look forward to talking to you soon, okay? And we'll see you next week at the next webinar. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.